Good afternoon, Fargo. It's a sunny day outside. I'm all excited. The United States' biggest barbecue is happening tomorrow. I'm pretty sure we're going to venture down to the lake with Roger and Jackie as we have done for the past few years. And I am excited. I've always loved the 4th of July. It's a very big deal in our family. Starting when I was very young, I can remember aunts, uncles, nephews, nieces, everybody coming, and we would have a huge barbecue. Now, for those of you who are young like I am, you know, James, back in the day, you used to have to take a can opener to open your soda, which means that you had to hit the top on one side, hit the top on the other side. There were no pull tabs on our sodas.
Well, I mean, we hit the side of some of our sodas, you know, if you want to drink them a little faster, a little air ventilation.
No. I'm talking
It's
about
like a straight up, like a can, like really.
Yes, sir. You had a can opener to open your soda, and you usually went to Holiday and you got the nondescript bubble up. There was no 7-Up. It was lemon lime, orange, grape, root beer, you know? So I remember that, and everybody talks about hot dogs and hamburgers. We had ribs and chicken and everything you could imagine. Potato salad, which I got to tell you, James, not anybody gets to make the potato salad, okay?
Is that a you thing?
If you put raisins in it, you're out. If you put walnuts in it, you're out, okay?
That sounds more like the noodle, what do you call it, the Italian style almost,
Yeah, you don't
Italian dressing with it.
Yes.
Or whatnot. Yeah, that sounds like to me.
Actually, it's Thousand Island dressing, and then you use Hellman's. And if you're going to put onions in it, you need to make sure that your onions are liquefied. If any of that doesn't happen, you will be escorted out of the barbecue post haste, as my mama used to say. So, mustard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you kidding me? So this gentleman to my left is Mike Sullivan. I've known Mike Sullivan since 1986, 87, somewhere there. He's a frat brother of mine, and I have him on because the organization that we belong to is called the Old Order of Owls, and we're starting a foundation. And Mike has been gracious enough to head that up. And I want to briefly talk about the Supreme Court decision to grant immunity to the president, which I find laughable. I mean, it is amazing to me that everybody was worried about Obama's New World Order and one government world order, and now we have the president with presidential immunity. I haven't read it. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what it means, but I think it's funny that we have a president who is, right now, I'm not talking about the other dude. I'm talking about Joe Biden. We call him Sleepy Joe, and, you know, Joe reminds me of an uncle I used to have. He slept a little bit. Okay, I get it. But now, do you really want this guy to be able to act in an official capacity and not be prosecuted? Feel free to call in. We're going to talk about that. And then I just heard about this thing about, it's called Project 2025. And it's gaining steam, and it's scary the way it's framed. Because the first 10 pages of a 900-page document, it's all sunshine and rainbows. And I was like, well, this makes sense. Why wouldn't we want this? Why wouldn't we want this? But then starting to look at it with a critical eye, one of the things that was glaring to me, and it was just a little portion of it, but it was the abolishment of unions in the United States. And you have to read about 10, 15 pages in and just read what they want to do in terms of unions, as well as the 40-hour work week. And it talks specifically about what's going to happen to overtime and what employers can do with overtime under Project 2025. So I just want people to go and look and get back to me on it, because we're going to discuss it, because I think this is amazing. We're moving at light speed towards a one-party system in the United States. I already think it's a one-party system. Everybody just doesn't know it, because to me, our system of government is based on socioeconomics. Forget what you hear about right and left. Forget what you hear about black versus white. Forget what you hear about immigration. We have a two-party system that operates as one. And the way you can tell, the people at the top stay at the top, the people in the middle get hammered at, and the poor have no shot. Okay? It's a socio-economic situation that we're in, and you only have to look at, we have a president that was, former president, that was convicted on 34 felonies. Now, for years, the brothers have been saying that our system is corrupt and nobody listened. We've been railroaded, we say, and people say, hey, it's a system of government. Live with it. Don't do the crime. We heard all of that. And so now somebody of means gets convicted of 34 counts of whatever. And whether he was railroaded or not, this is the system. This is the system under which I had to live. Mike, you have to live under this system. Now we want to talk about how unfair the system is. Well, we used to have a saying, hey, you got to miss me with that. If the system is what it is, whatever he's required to do, have him do that. Secondly, if a convicted felon can run for president, then we should no longer have that as an exclusionary factor on any job application. It should not make a bit of difference now if that's what we're going for. Because if you're going to run run the most powerful position in the United States, you're a felon, I think you should be able to drive not a school bus. Whoa, hey. You should be able to drive a city bus or a truck. But the point is, we need to stop having different standards for people. Let's have our legislators and our political leaders fall under the same thing that we do. I've said it before. I would love for our congressmen to get paid at the same rate that our state congressmen get paid when they go to Washington instead of, secondly, none of this enriching yourself in politics. You know, we know that it's done. Like I said, one of my favorites is we had a waitress that was elected to Congress, and she's now worth over $5 million. How does that happen? She didn't have those type of connections when she was a waitress, but she sure does now. So I'm off on a rant. Mike, welcome to the show. So I always have to get these things off my chest because it is soul-sucking what I have to listen to every day. And by the way, fellas at the golf course, if you want to talk politics, that's fine, but have some logical basis when you're talking about it, okay? Secondly, don't try to bully anybody in your position. State your position and move on. You know, there's too many, oh yeah, I'm on one today. There are too many people that think that just because they say it, that makes it law. And I'm going to say it right now, we have a group in the United States that's engaging in bully politics. They move the needle this way or that way, they state their position, and then they shout you down when it doesn't fit their narrative. Sound familiar? Some people would say that's the left. Absolutely. They're in the streets, they're ranting, they're raving, they're shouting. Some people say it's the right. What I say is let's stop the bully politics and let's talk about facts. You know, there was a time when everything we did was rooted in the truth. We don't have that nowadays. I see people throwing the truth by the wayside more often than not. I see people sacrificing their morals and values for an ideal. And since I'm a Christian, at the end of the day, I think if you do that, when you die, you have to have an accounting. Because the Lord says, what you do to the least of them, you also do to me. So Big Game James says, we're already up against the break. Just for the record, I did take my medicine this week. So that's why I'm so clear of thought. If you want to call in, the phone number is 701-293-9000. Feel free to give us a call. Oh, my. Oh, big game. James comes in. So is this your attempt to calm me down, to relax me a little bit?
Is it working? Is it soothing at all?
You know what? It is very smooth.
You want to kick back and go barbecue a little bit?
Come on, man. Fife Dog, you hit it on the head, buddy. Big game. James on the wheels of steel, as it were. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember what that is, but it's the turntables. James is doing his thing. So that was enough of a rant for the first segment. I certainly didn't mean to go on for 20 minutes, but these are things that need to be talked about. And to tell you the truth, I like the fact that I can have a show about positivity, but I'm fed up with willful ignorance. I'm fed up with people looking me in my face, knowing that they are morally wrong, and standing on business. I think it is absolutely ridiculous that people can actually twist their minds to believe some of the things that are happening. And I'm talking on both sides of the aisle. Now, let me get this out here, all right? I'm not sitting here like I don't have issues. If you've listened to this show in the past year, you know that I have plenty of issues. I have plenty of problems, but you know what? I try to own them, okay? And I try to do the right thing always, and I fail. But you know what I don't do? Is I don't try to remain willfully ignorant. I don't allow people around me to be willfully ignorant, and I believe in accountability. We have to have accountability because also we have to show our kids that accountability is what matters, okay? And if you can compromise your ability to hold people accountable, what do you have? And I hear all the time that this society is headed for Armageddon. Today, Mike and Billy T and I were talking about the fall of the Roman Empire, what precipitated that. And are we in the end of days in the United States? Well, I personally believe that it's still one nation under God, okay? So I still pray that God has his hand in this thing and that somewhere along the line that we start electing leaders that have a moral compass, okay, that adhere to the tenets of Jesus Christ. No offense to Muslims. It's sad that I have to say those things. Whatever God you believe in, I hope that they have that entity has a hand in the United States. So with that, we're going to move forward because I'm sparked today, Mike. I hadn't expected to go on this rant. So about 6 weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago, a friend of ours passed away. He committed suicide, and he was an owl brother. He was our fraternity brother, and we had an amazingly difficult, amazingly resilient weekend surrounding his memorial. And it's funny because I said that Darren did the most Darren thing he could possibly do, and he managed to bring a group of guys back together in a way that we have connected, that we want to start a foundation, an outreach of sorts to first meet the needs of our fellow frat brothers, if there arises one. Also to connect a group of like-minded individuals that believed in an organization and each other that help us chart our course and help us get to where we are today. And my owl brothers, my frat brothers, I still am great friends with more of them than I am any of the people that I went to college with, more than the people that I've known around town. These gentlemen are at the core of a lot of the things that help me be where I am. So welcome to the show, Sully, first of all, and just give the people an idea of first, how did you end up going to the Owls or becoming an Owl?
Oh man, that was a really interesting story. I was on the football team, and my roommate was Shuey, and he was talking up this big group that they had, and I wanted to go to McDonald's that day because I was hungry, and he's like, he was not going to go. I couldn't budge him. You know, Shuey, once he's sedentary, it's hard to get him to move.
When he's on one, he's done.
Yep. And so we're sitting there, and he goes, I'll tell you what, I'll go to McDonald's with you if you join the Owls with me tonight. And I'm like, okay, all right, let's do it. So we went to McDonald's. We had a quarter pounder with cheese, and then I started my weekend. And if you remember, they hadn't had a weekend for 2 years, JJ.
Yes.
John, excuse me. John, they hadn't had a weekend for 2 years. So
yes.
So needless to say, the brothers were rather excited to see both John and I.
Yes, we were.
Yes, you were.
And you know, I talked to my sons about joining a fraternity or joining any organization, and one of the things that I taught them is that you have to understand why you're joining. And much like Mike, my story is Leo Ballard, who is my egg brother, he says, "Hey man, I'm going to join this organization. You want to tag along and see what it's about?" And he didn't know it was a mixer or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
What he thought was a mixer was actually a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm expecting to be there for a few hours.
Yep. It was SS Minnow for sure. I mean,
well, 72 hours later, I passed whatever test I went through. It's a little hazy, but those things happen.
Yeah.
But through it all, I think the process of joining and what happens for that entire year, it teaches you what we call brotherhood and unity. And at the time that you're doing it, it's kind of like, it's tongue in cheek, because after all, you're all young men doing what young men do. Okay, you're going to school, you're hanging out, you're doing whatever you do, but you never really take in the words until you get older. You know, it's kind of like I was explaining to somebody what it's like to accomplish stuff. Mm-hmm. And in high school, all through high school, I had what I would like to call a very successful high school career. Mm-hmm. But my high school was so successful that my accomplishments were next to nothing compared to the other athletes that came out of our high school. And it wasn't talked about. It wasn't a big deal, you know? Mm-hmm. And I was highly decorated. Mm-hmm. But then in my 30s, I look back on what I accomplished in high school, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a big deal back then. Mm-hmm. But so now you look at being in an organization like the Owls, okay? I don't know if you guys know, but when you lose somebody to suicide, there's a certain amount of guilt. There's a certain amount of what could I have done?
Absolutely.
There's a certain amount of I should have been better. I should have. There's a lot of should haves.
Yeah.
Whether you're family or you're a friend. And the first night that we were together, there was 3 hours of every one of us talking about what we could have done. And at the end of it, we all concluded that we had done as much as we could do, in the reality that Darren was going to do what he was going to do and nobody could save him from himself. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. The second night after Memorial, and from that meeting on, the focus of healing came with the stories, okay? Mm-hmm. But it also came with the marriage of who we are now, right?
Yeah.
And so
the revelation and the appreciation.
Yes.
The evolution.
And so it's all over, and we all go back to our lives, and somebody puts out there, you know, it was a great experience. It was a great time. We should do more of it, as people do. Mike put it in our heads that we should start a foundation that would meet the needs of families of Owls or current Owls or sweethearts, and provide some place where it's outreach, where it's community, and it's all based on love and understanding and mutual respect. And with that, the Owl Foundation is in the works. So talk about the foundation, Mike.
Sure. You know, I want to clarify something, because I think this is really important. You talked about the common mind of the brotherhood. Mm-hmm. You know, I think what is unique about us is we couldn't be more different people as a group. I mean, it literally represents the United States. this motley crew that we had 30 years ago, and then you throw in the different generations of Owls, et cetera. But there's a common bond there, and that common bond usurps the different mindsets and creates the underlying love, which is the basis of this foundation. Okay. And I, I love you like a brother. If you came to my house, I'm an only child, so it's my brother, right. And we're gonna fight, and we're gonna hug, and we're gonna golf, and we're gonna fish, and we're gonna do whatever we need to do. But at the end of the day, we're still gonna be brothers.
Right.
That's our foundation. And what we found was we were getting together far too often at funerals.
Yes.
And when I was looking at the correspondence, every time we get done with those, it's what's the first thing everybody says? Let's get together. Right. We got to do this more. And then does it ever happen? No.
That's an excellent point. We're going to talk. I'm going to let you continue that thought. Big Game James says we got to pay the bills. I'm here with Mike Sullivan, one of the architects of the OWL Foundation, which is the foundation of outreach and love that we're organizing along with the MSU Alumni Association. This is Jon Adams with Talk of the Town. If you want to call in, the phone number is 701-293-9000. Mr. Hanson, the best looking guy in the crew, Kristen Johnson. Hello. Hey, welcome back to Talking to Tom with Jon Adams. We've got a caller, Mark, on the line. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, good afternoon, or hello. I wanted to echo everything that you and your guest have just said. My brother is actually an owl. And
who's your brother?
My brother's name is Aaron. And he was there in the late 90s, 2000, just before the chapter closed. But he, too, has relationships with owls. And I bet you guys would have something to talk about with him, although I would suspect you're senior relative to him. And
We're senior compared to most people at this point. So
if you're opening your pop with can openers, you've got a few years on Aaron.
Well, I'll tell you, the one thing that really ties the owls together is the sense of togetherness that you get when you spend time with these men. I think that regardless of when you joined, it's the same. You know, traditions are important, and that's one thing that the owls we've managed to maintain is the integrity of tradition. And one of the things that we live by is the Owl Creed, and it says that I promise to accept this man on the same terms that he has promised to accept me. And we live by that.
literally.
And it's not always – go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say you can cross-apply that to the interfraternity and Greek system deals, where just this very morning I wrote an alum of the Sigma Chi House at NDSU. I'm a member of the Theta Chi House, but he and I sustained relationships because we met each other through the Greek system. I've been in weddings from different fraternities and sororities through that Greek system. And, you know, it's been really fun. The fraternal, it was not isolated to one's, that fraternal spirit is isolated to one's own chapter. It really expands and is sustained. But of course, you know, within our own chapters, we're real close. I've had two close, you know, near-death experiences with guys in the house. But at post-graduation, but they were able to respond. They had contact information from my family and so on, because we've sustained those relationships, and those relationships were not just acquaintances.
Right. I want to thank you for calling in, Mark. I was giggling a little bit because you said you had near-death experiences, and and as a fraternity member, I think we all have those, but yours was serious. But I'm glad that you overcame that. Thanks for your call, Mark. So Sully, you had a thought before we left off on the break, trying to play for some commercials.
Oh, okay. So refresh my memory as far as
we were talking about the foundation and how you took it from an idea to developing the charter.
Yeah. So I think we're what we did is we put out the fact that we need to have some sort of an organized mechanism to get together.
Yes.
And you know, I believe in compelling events. And we have a friend, Mike Ryan, who has been inviting people to come down to his place in the Twin Cities every year for 10 years. And nobody, you know, we get 3 or 4 people show up. And why is that? And it's because there's no compelling event. There's no significance to it, right? Outside of just getting together. And there's always a reason. And especially when we're younger, there's family and there's other things that come up, and it just never happens. And so when we were putting the foundation together, I was making the calls to Don and you and Mike Ryan, Eric Hansen, some of the people that are probably watching this, watching on Facebook right now. One of the things that we wanted to make sure that when we did the foundation, we had the right motives, we had the right the right incentives for people to get together, reasons to get together, and an underlying cause that really epitomizes what our organization stands for. Mm-hmm. And so we spent a lot of time on the charter. And you know, we had our kickoff meeting last night, as you know, and one of the things that I got a lot of grief about was just how long that charter was and how much reading it was, and you know, the novelesque components of it. But the foundational element was we want to be able to, like you said, help the people, help help our brothers. And I think one of the things that I thought what is critical about the foundation is having a mechanism where people can reach out and like a form or a forum where people can do it without guilt and put it out there and say, I'm struggling. Because there's so many people. It's not just people our age, but people that are struggling for one reason or another. And some of them just need to talk to somebody. Some of them need financial help. Some of them need some guidance. Some people need a kick in the butt, right? And the Brotherhood is capable of doing all those things.
Yes.
And so we have first of all, have that form, and then have some sort of place to send the money. And then we brought this up to Donnie, and Donnie's like, I bet MSU would love this. Because one of the things about MSU, we love MSU, but it's a suitcase college for the most part.
Right.
The kids go home every weekend, and they really don't have a lot of structure or foundation. And so that was the thing that we all had, is we had this place to go, this group to be with that gave us an allegiance or an affinity for our university, a reason to stay there.
I think it's like an anchor.
Yeah, perfect
and
term.
if you know anything about Morehead State history, I'm calling Morehead State because that's what it was when I was there.
Yeah.
The founding members of the Owls are represented all over the campus.
Yeah.
And it's a part of history, and that's a great source of pride with us.
Yeah.
And a lot of our members have gone on to do great things. And it's like our anchor, it's like our safe space, it's like the thing that ties us together. And so we're older. And I like to say that for me, I'm in the give back portion of my life.
Amen.
Life has been good to me. The world has been good to me. Fargo's been good to me. And it's like stuff doesn't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Money doesn't do it anymore. But helping other people, trying to be positive in the right way, move in the right direction, all those things are what I think when you get older become more important.
Right.
And so this foundation, I'm very proud to be a part of it because we have to give back. We have to care, and it has to be bigger than yourself at all times. And very well there was a time when that would have never been said by me, because there's a time when it was all about me, but you learn and you grow. Mm-hmm. Okay? And we've all learned and grown. And so to be able to have this foundation, and it's interesting because it's going to take a lot of work to get it off the ground. I think once the heavy lifting is done and we have the mechanism and the structure in place, and the community sees that a group that benefited a lot from Morehead State in the community is looking to give back, I think that's the linchpin for why this will be successful.
Right. And I think that's why Minnesota State University Morehead, I
don't know what that is.
I don't either, but they've been great. Steve Schoberg over there and the president and the staff from top to bottom have absolutely rolled out the red carpet to us and given us access to resources, whether it's the foundation, some of the project management tools, their fundraising infrastructure, all that stuff's in place for us. And to be able to go into Dave Valesky was over last night, and we were having a couple of beverages, and he's like, Sully, do you realize that was the same room that we had meetings in? And I didn't realize it, because they had all this equipment in there. They had these things hanging from the ceiling and videos, and I'm like, this is actually pretty sophisticated. It wasn't like that in 1988, I can promise you. And so they've given us access to all those things. And so what we thought was going to be a gigantic challenge, they've taken a lot of the roadblocks out of the way for us. And we're extremely grateful to the university. And we really want to partner with them so that we can put together scholarships.
Right.
We can contribute to the endowment. We can have an organized structure for brothers who are starting to pass to give to the university, to give to the community. And it's kind of expanded from just a way for us to get together and us to help people out, to help in the broader community in general. And I think a lot of the guys looked at that and they said, that's a pretty big bite to chew. But, sometimes some of these snowballs start to grow fast. And what we're finding is that when the people are lifting up the hood and they're actually doing the reading, they're like, this is actually kind of cool. And we're seeing the brothers jump on, and we're seeing the university jump on, and hopefully we can get the community to jump on. Because what we have, Jon, is we have, as you mentioned, we have these relationships that have spanned 30 years. And I don't know too many people that went to college that have any kind of relationships with the people that they went to college like we do, that have the support infrastructure that we do. And so, ideally we set the bar for how people communicate. And you were the intro that you had, I think paints a lot of the picture of what's wrong with the country right now, is that people aren't talking. And if they had a little bit more about what we have with its organization, I think we'd be living in a better country right now.
That's an excellent point. I've always said that if the purpose of the show is dialogue.
Yeah.
And I the one thing that the Owls had is you could have a disagreement. Yeah, I was always amazed at the number of disagreements that would flow through our organization. But at the end of the day, it always ended with a beer and either agreement to disagree, or we had other ways of settling things. But you know what? It was a conversation, and you were allowed to have an opinion. However stupid, you were allowed to voice your opinion. And it is about dialogue. And I think it's being lost, number one, because we stopped talking and we're too busy typing or looking at our phone. I think that social media is the bane of our existence, only because the fools have access, okay? And the level of disinformation that can be put out there as gospel is mind-numbing. But I've always said that as a person, you can only take care of your corner of the world and make that as tidy, as neat as you can, and partner with like-minded individuals who want to do the same. And I've said it before, Fargo to me is amazing. I have lifelong friends. I say I'm one of the luckiest people that I know, but part of it is that we still do have respect for one another. And I think it is dialogue. Big Game James says that's all fine, well, and good, but we got to pay these bills. So we're going to wrap it up on the other end of the break. I'm here with Mike Sullivan. We're talking about the Owl Foundation, an organization that's dedicated to outreach and keeping our community strong. We're back. Sorry, I was vibing on the music. You know, it's amazing the way music can take you various places, and just listening to that song, it's just smooth and easy. You know, it reminds me of a time when all I had to worry about was playing football, getting to school, and not making too much of a ruckus in the streets. But times change now. There is no ruckus. I couldn't possibly play football, and I don't even know what the streets look like other than the drive
You're
on.
still capable of creating a ruckus, and you know that.
Yeah, but you know what? I get sleepy about 8:30.
I know this
o'clock.
ruckus is a lot earlier now than it used to be.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because a lot of my friends now call me and say, "Hey, we're going out for a beer. How does 6 o'clock sound to you?"
It's a little late.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we're not going to catch happy hour.
Oh man, it is amazing how time has tamed us down.
Yeah, we're catching the early happy hour as opposed to the late happy hour now.
Yeah, and it's really not happy. It's just like I'm gonna wind a little bit.
Yeah,
It's more like a mellow hour.
yeah, decompression session.
Yeah. So Mike and I have been talking about the Owl Foundation. It's a foundation that we are creating and setting up to meet the needs of former Owls as well as sweethearts, and develop an outreach to the community that will help with scholarships or an endowment for people in need in the Moorhead State community, more MSUM if I have to say it. But first I want to thank the administration at MSUM. You know, MSUM is a gem in this community, and for whatever reason, it doesn't get the same acclaim as Concordia or, of course, Big Brother NDSU. And I hope that things like this organization bring to light a lot of the good things that are happening at Moorhead State. Now, do we have a long way to go? Absolutely. There are plenty of things that I look at Moorhead State and I would love to jump in, but I'm fond of saying we can't do everything. And we have to hope that we have people in place that are trying to put their best foot forward. For me personally, I think that people get into stuff with the right intention, but a lot of times it's a lot bigger than you could ever imagine. And the general public only sees a small portion of it, which is why I wanted to have Mike on the show. Starting a foundation is a monumental task, but these are the things that keep our community strong. You know, if you're not willing to give back and you just take, it's hard for the community to thrive. And more than that, if we aren't creating groups like this, what ends up happening is this is what our young people see. And one of the reasons that I became a mentor at South High is because, you know, Whitney Houston saying children are our future, or maybe it was on Coming to America. Either way, we have to show our young people what it means to be accountable. We need to teach them how to have dialogue. We all have to have a hand in that. While we're sitting here arguing about this or that, I think sometimes we forget young people are watching, okay? And as a parent, anybody who's a parent knows that your kids are sponges and they're taking their cues from you. Young people in the street are taking their cues from what they see on social media, and if they don't have people to steer them in the right direction, those are the cues they follow. And it takes a village is still in play here. You know, I mean, some people say, well, I'm scared to talk. Well, you can't be scared. I think we have an obligation as adults in this community to look out for our youth, to guide them, not boss them, because I can tell you a lot of the kids that I've met, and by kids, I don't mean young kids. I'm saying our younger generation, they're pretty sharp. They're doing amazing things, and that can't be lost on us. So with that, we've got a few minutes. If you want to know more about the foundation, like I said, there will be information coming out. One of the things that we intend to do is we intend to have a Zoom meeting for current and former, I guess we're all current, former, but members of the organization, sweethearts, and also people in the community. This isn't just for us, it's for the community, okay? Want to make that perfectly clear. A lot of times it can get muddled and it's like, oh, well, they're asking for money for their group. The idea is we want to be of service, which is one of the things that we did when we were actually active members, is that you had to do community service, you had to be involved. This is us doing the same thing at a semi-advanced age, would you not say, Mike?
I think that's well stated.
So James says, I've got a minute and a half to say everything I want to say, which is not going to happen because, as you guys know, I like to talk. So with that, the OWL Foundation, there will be information coming. We will have Zoom meetings that will be posted on the OWL Facebook page where it's the get-together portion, it's the reconnecting, it's the networking that's involved so that we can do the outreach that we want to have and that we can move this thing forward. With that, I want to say, listen, if you're lighting off fireworks, and I never thought about this, I used to have a big fireworks display, but I never considered that dogs and some people might be affected by fireworks. You know, I never knew that animals could be, but then one year my neighbor came over and his dog was frantic. And I felt bad because it was a cute dog, but it had some issues. So let's be respectful as we light off our fireworks. Have a happy 4th of July. And in the grand scheme of things, all of us are Americans, regardless of whether you immigrated here or you were born here. We're all Americans, and it's up to us to keep our country strong. So this has been Jon Adams with Talk of the Town. I hope you have a lovely 4th. Eat, drink, and be merry, and as always, stay black.